Furion versus Anduin.
The light shall bring victory.
I must protect the wild.
I'm really enjoying queuing into all these priests. Especially if he's Highlander Priest and I draw like this.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Well, Weasel Tunneler is really annoying with Oaken Summons. So I'm looking to not kill a Weasel if he plays it out here.
Mind if I roll knee?
Loot Hoarder I can kill. Probably go ahead and Wrath it for a card.
What is real?
Sick combo, bro. Let's see who completes their quest first.
Miss me? What is real?
Man, this guy is working toward his quest. His quest is actually kind of scary, because the max damage from my deck, well, not the max damage, I guess, but one of the biggest numbers I can burst for is 36, I think. Actually, I guess if he has no taunts, that bursts for more than that, 48, I think. So if I can just get Barnabas down soon, and then draw my whole deck, I guess I can kill him through Amara.
Mind if I roll knee?
Kinda tempted to just play Reckless Rocketeer here so I can play Barnabas next turn. It lines up really poorly into this. But I want to get the Barnabas down while I have a Cube and a Faceless, a Leroy, and a Deathwing still in the deck. That's a pretty strong Herald Village. Alright, let's get the Barnabas down and get closer to 10 mana.
Not too quickly.
The end is coming!
Doomsayer here. Do I want to kill it? I guess I probably should, because obviously he wants it to go off. And I don't want him to be happy. Let's Wrath this for one, and then I'm gonna swipe it, I guess, and kill the Doomsayer. I can Coon here. I can try to save Coon, since I have an Ixlid and a Carnivorous Cube that both cost mana.
For the wild. Time waits for no one.
I guess at this point I'm just gonna save it because I waited too long. I also think I might just need to save it, because if he plays Amara and goes up to 40, I might need to do a pretty absurd amount of burst damage. Fury and the Pestilent is the thing I could play this turn. I really just want to draw my deck, though. I guess I could Coon here. Wait, if I play Branching Paths, I can sometimes just get lethal, can't I? At 27, I need 19. 19 is actually a pretty awkward break point for my deck. Let's go ahead and start with a Wild Growth. There's the Deathwing. Let's just go ahead and play this guy. Just taunt up to slow things down. So I'm thinking about saving this Coon for a burst turn, obviously. But another weird thing about it is, if I don't play it, it's going to clog my hand for when I inevitably have to play an Ultimate Infestation. And I might just have to end up playing it anyway. Maybe I should just commit to playing Coon next turn. Well, let's start by drawing a couple cards. So on 10 mana, I can go Ixlid, Leroy, Double Cube, Deathwing, which is so much damage. That's more than 40. I guess I don't need Coon. Alright, so I think I have lethal next turn most of the time. I go Ixlid Leroy, that's 12. I go Cube, Faceless the Cube, and then Deathwing, which gives me 6 Leroys for 30 damage. So I have 42 if he doesn't have taunts. No, it's 48 because I get 6 Leroys, that's 36 damage. So if he has no taunts, I can kill him from 43 with no board. If I draw the 0 mana cube, I can even kill him through a taunt because I'll be able to play Naturalize. Alright, well, let's see if I know how to do math. Got him.
Malfurion versus Malfurion.
I must protect the wild. Nature must be preserved.
Am I supposed to keep Corridor Creeper with this deck? Probably not, right? Need to find ramp, need to find Oaken Summons. If I'm not keeping it, should it just not be in my deck? What would I replace it with, though? I wonder if he's playing the same list or if he's playing Malagos. Well, at least this isn't a Wild Growth versus no Wild Growth game. And he probably doesn't have Jade Blossom either since he didn't coin it out. Well, unfortunately his turn 4 was a little bit better than mine, but fairly comparable. Oh no. This is a disaster. Or is it? We're just putting stuff on the board. Alright, he's ramping up. Why am I dying? Can you stop killing me, Mr. Opponent? Ramp up to 10 mana next turn and play Ultimate Infestation, I suppose. I'm just dead to swipe, so that's a thing that could be happening. I'm dead to this too. Damn, I just got fucked. Shut up, nerd.
Malfurion versus Anduin.
The light shall bring victory.
I must protect the wild.
Well, Oaken Summons is good. Still hoping to hit Wild Growth and Jade Blossom. This isn't really a naturalized matchup, but it can be okay. Definitely an early Deathwing. Draw a card off this Thalnos, because beyond the Oaken Summons, my hand is actually kind of bad. That's a really good draw. Hopefully he doesn't have Silence or Mass Dispel to shut down these Cursed Disciples. Oh, the Hero Power Pass. That's my favorite turn to see from the opponent. Kind of a bummer to hit the second Oaken Summons after I've hit both Cursed Disciples, but whatever. Has some use after Barnabas. You motherfucker. Well, you can't have a second Mass Dispel.
Embrace the void.
This guy. Eight cards in hand. Fuck your Weasel Priest. I'm just gonna beat his ass with these guys. Who needs to play Barnabas?
Let the pain speak to me.
Okay, well, there goes any chance I had of beating him to death without playing Barnabas. Seven mana, 5/5. He's gonna wish he had that Anduin after I play Barnabas and then throw out some more big guys, I guess. Or maybe not, who knows. Looks like I'm getting pretty wrecked here. Interesting that he chose not to buff the Acolyte. I guess he's not a fan of card draw. I'm really worried about overdrawing with Ultimate Infestation, but I do need to make some progress on the quest. It's really a bummer if I hit things like Faceless and the Carnivorous Cube without them being 0 mana. But I just don't have that many ways left in my deck to actually activate the quest since he silenced both of my Cursed Disciples. So I have to get the 5/5 out of the Ultimate Infestation to contribute to it, and then I have to actually try to draw into the other Corridor Creeper or Coon. Hopefully I draw the Corridor Creeper before the Coon, because it's going to be really hard to burst him when this much of my hand is not 0 mana, if I don't get a 0 mana Coon to give me a 20 mana turn.
I got the best deals anywhere.
Jesus Christ. This has been a tough game. How do I ever win at this point? I guess in one turn I can try to go Ixlid, Leroy, and the other Carnivorous Cube. And then I just have some cubes out and he plays Psychic Scream and I die. Alright, I guess I'm doing this. I have a cube with some Leroys in it. If he can answer it, I don't think I can win the game. But if he can't answer it, next turn can be like Ixlid Faceless. And then if he doesn't Psychic Scream that board, I can just play Deathwing. We're really scrapping to put this together though. If this is Psychic Scream, which it looks like it might be, I don't think I can win. Although I guess sometimes I just play a 5 mana 8/8 and beat him with it. For what it's worth, if this cube goes back into my deck, I get to discount it to 0, which is kind of nice. But I'm out of chargers, because I don't play the Reckless Rocketeer anymore.
Is someone injured?
But now that I've seen Psychic Scream and Shadow Reaper Anduin, maybe he just can't answer a couple of 8/8s. Probably needs like Raza plus Shadow Word Death. Could also be, what, double hero power, Dragonfire Potion? That doesn't quite do it, but it leaves me with an 8/1.
Blessed be this funnel cake.
Okay, he has a Shadow Word Death. Oh, he got it off Shadow Visions. But that does mean the other one is still in the deck. Okay, so I want to kill Priest of the Feast, because if I go face, it's going to probably heal for more than that. And then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to gain some armor. So I've seen his Mass Dispel, I've seen his Silence, I've seen his Psychic Scream. He doesn't have Raza in play. He shouldn't be able to deal with these cubes. I play Deathwing next turn, and then I have 4 8/8s and a 12/12. Which he should have no way to deal with. That's the goal. Well, he got Raza. But I have a pretty good amount of health, so hopefully even with Velen he won't have the tools to kill me next turn. But he has drawn most of his deck. I'm at 34. Okay, let me look at the hand first. This has to just be the play, right? None of these cards do anything. I can deal 8 damage here, so I would need 15 more, so there's no way I can actually draw into a lethal. Yep. We're doing this. So I'm at 34. I think Velen, Radiant Elemental, Mind Blast, Holy Smite, which is a pretty conventional combo. I think that does 32. So sometimes I'm not dead. And if I'm not dead here, I should just win. I don't think he can really have an answer to this board. Well, I guess maybe like Dragonfire Potion and a bunch of hero powers. He can deal with all the 8/8s, and then Deathwing itself is not lethal. But even then, I still have, what, Branching Paths would be lethal, 2 Swipes would be lethal, Ultimate Infestation would be lethal. So I think there's actually a pretty good chance I'm going to win this game from this position. Also, it should be pretty difficult for him to even clear the 8/8s. Because with Dragonfire Potion they're all at 3, and he's already played Pyromancer and Spirit Lash, which would be a nice way to help clean up the other guys. That's Shadow Word Death, but there's still 32 points of damage on the board. I only need 2 of them to live. Oh my fucking god, I won this game.
Your victory proves nothing.
Overall, I went 11 and 17 with this deck, which is obviously not very good, 39%. But I made some serious changes compared to the very first version. I have my newest version in-game, and I have my earliest version on the deck tracker. Originally, I was playing Stranglethorn Tiger and 2 Menagerie Wardens. That was the package used to support the quest in the previous expansion, but now we have Cursed Disciple Oaken Summons, which is significantly less clunky, I think. Menagerie Warden does have the benefit of being able to copy cheap corridor creepers, but I don't think that's good enough to keep those cards in. More recently, I cut Reckless Rocketeer and Malfurion the Pestilent. Originally, Reckless Rocketeer was in the deck just for some redundancy with Leroy Jenkins, but I think you draw through your deck quickly and efficiently enough that you're pretty much always going to find your Leroy, and with all the redundancy you have between Ixlid and Faceless and 2 Carnivorous Cubes, and even Coon to innervate you for 10 mana, I don't think it's really that big of a deal if you draw Leroy before Barnabas most games, because you just have enough mana to work with even if you have to sink 5 into Leroy. So Reckless Rocketeer seems unnecessary, and it's really shitty to ever actually have to play this card if you're not killing the opponent. Malfurion the Pestilent I think is a much more questionable card to cut from the list. The reason to cut it is that it doesn't draw you cards and it always costs 7 mana, so it's pretty clunky and it often just sits in your hand doing nothing, which is pretty annoying because this deck already has hand size issues, just because the amount of cards that you draw and the amount of cards like Carnivorous Cube and Ixlid that just sit in your hand for most of the game. You don't really want another card like that. But Malfurion the Pestilent is obviously a very strong card. It helps you be defensive in some of your worst matchups, and even in some of your good matchups, 2 mana deal 3 damage to the opponent is pretty good. But cutting those cards, I was able to make room for a second copy of Branching Paths and 2 copies of Wrath. Very good cards that give you removal, armor, card draw, all things that this deck really values. But I think the biggest change was putting in 2 copies of Naturalize. I wanted to play this originally as a combo activator with Carnivorous Cube, similar to how Warlocks play Dark Pact. So without going full combo, you could just go Leroy for 6, Cube, Naturalize for 12 more damage, 18 burst pretty easily. But the Naturalize turned out to be pretty good for other reasons more so than that. One of the ways you lose games with this deck is your opponent plays a large minion that hits you in the face repeatedly, and Naturalize is a nice efficient way to deal with that, and it's pretty easy to even play it in the same turn as like a ramp spell or a card draw spell, which is very important to this deck. Another significant thing that Naturalize does is it lets you beat Control Warlock. Previously, if your opponent had a Void Lord in play, you could do some cool Leroy Cube Deathwing stuff, but after you played the Deathwing, the Void Lord popped and they still had 3 taunts. So now you can just Naturalize the Void Lord and then play Deathwing, all of their taunts are dead, and you can hit the opponent in the face. So after making those changes, I went 7 and 3 with the deck, which is significantly better than the 4 and 14 that I was sitting at before that. But to be fair, in the set where I went 4 and 14, I had a pretty rough run of really bad matchups. In those 18 games, I queued into 9 Spiteful Summoner Priests, which has to be like one of the deck's worst matchups, because they just curve out nicely, they play big dudes, and it's hard for you to deal with all of that, while also ramping and drawing toward your win condition. And that's the thing about this deck, it's super matchup dependent. Things like the Dragon Priests and Aggro Paladins and Tempo Rogues, they're going to be tough for you to deal with, because in the early turns, you want to play your quest, you want to play ramp spells, you want to be playing 4 mana 5/1s, and none of those things are very good against decks that actually do things in the early turns. But against the slower decks in the metagame, I think you actually do pretty well. Highlander Priest is probably the deck you're looking to target with this list. Unless they hit the dream curve, you can usually find your win condition before they can find theirs. Against more control-oriented decks like Control Warlock, you're just able to draw into your win condition and play Barnabas and whatnot without them really contesting you. They just want to set up taunts or whatever, and you just don't care about that, you just kill them. If they have Doomguards in their list, I think it's a lot more trouble, but the non-Doomguard Control Warlocks, I think you should have a pretty good win rate against. And I didn't play the matchup, but I imagine you're also pretty favored against something like Jade Druid. So basically, you do well against slow decks, and you don't do so well against aggro decks. Unfortunately, I'm not really sure what you can do to improve the aggro matchups. All of the defensive cards you can be playing seem pretty shitty. Like Dark Arakoa helps you with the quest. It's efficiently statted, but it just dies to Vile Spine Slayer. Spreading Plague is nice, but at 6 mana, it's going to get caught in your hand a lot, and you can never play it in the same turn as something like Nourish. I think the only change I'm really considering at this point is playing Jasper Spellstone. It's efficient early game removal, and it's pretty easy to weave into a turn alongside a ramp spell or some card draw or something like that, so you can deal with their board and advance your game plan at the same time. You already play a lot of armor cards in this deck to support it. 2 copies of Branching Paths, Oaken Summons, and Ultimate InQUESTation. I think if you wanted to play Jasper Spellstone, you probably would want to put Malfurion the Pestilent back in the deck. But again, Malfurion the Pestilent is already a pretty solid inclusion. In a lot of situations, the Jasper Spellstone is actually pretty comparable to the Naturalize. Once it gets up to 6 mana, you can use it as a cube activator. You can also use it to kill those mid-game Cobalt Scalebanes and South Sea Captains or whatever. It's not quite as good at dealing with Void Lord, but if you're not queuing into too much Control Warlock, Lesser Jasper Spellstone is probably going to serve you about as well as Naturalize. If I wanted to make this change, I think I'd probably be looking to cut maybe like 2 copies of Swipe and 1 copy of Naturalize for 2 Spellstones and Malfurion the Pestilent. But overall, I think I'm pretty satisfied with how the list looks right now.